When I was 6, I was mute. Not because of a physical condition, but because of a combination of reasons, the most prominent of which was something inside me telling me, you can't. You see, whereas others preferred to gossip or talk about the latest trends, I was drawn to the philosophies behind life and how powers can mean something more than just 6 letters on a page. I was incapable of thinking like everyone else, and that was what made me mute. While muteness was my cage, my thoughts, imagination, and ponderings trapped behind closed lips, dance presented itself as the way out. It was through dance that the world of what ifs and why nots went from unspoken words to this. And it was through pirouettes and ronde-jongs that words started flowing. It was through expressing my thoughts and feelings with my body that I found my voice. To dance is to speak. Dance can be the difference between a shy girl who would never dare to look anyone in the eye and the girl who's standing here talking to you today. And that is why it is a way to bridge the stigma of hospital children, one of the most overlooked demographics in the philanthropic world, and the demographic that my initiative, Light Footsteps Dance, is aiming to help. What I mean by hospital children are children who harbor all sorts of ailments, from staphylococcus to mental retardation, and who are admitted into hospitals. When you search up education charities for children in Haiti, there are over 10 million results. There are 78 million for Asian children and 117 million for those in Africa. There are charities in all of these places, and yet they are bound by geographical boundaries. What hospital children represent are the erasing of these lines, these boundaries. They're in Africa, they're in Asia, in Haiti. They are living parallel lives next to all of us, and yet are many times overlooked. Hospitals may look after their children mentally, physically, and sometimes emotionally. But what about if we dared to push further than just the minimum requirements of being considered healthy? There are many lines marking what these children can and cannot do, a code of behavior that cannot be crossed. Take, for example, being a child. How many times have you said or have been told you didn't know anything just because you're young? Young, reckless, foolish, those are the words associated with each other. And when some try to break away from those lines, dare to dream and be heard, they're told, no, you are too inexperienced. Now, these hospital children do not only harbor the associations with being a child, but also the stigma of being sick. There was a girl named Busabong who was a talented athlete back in her village until she was diagnosed with malignancy in her blood that forced her to stop. She found that she could no longer pursue the passion she once had and thought that she could no longer be anyone more than just a person fighting her own body. To have a malignancy is not only to have a disease. It is a countdown that cannot be stopped, a dreaded word that can change a stranger's perception of her in just a few seconds. A year ago, she was part of the impromptu dance class I taught at the local hospital, and a few months later, she sent me this clip.
ไม่เคยค่ะไม่อยากเต้นเลยไม่มีความรู้สึกว่าอยากเต้นเลยค่ะหลังคลาสเต้นกับพี่ยุ้ยหนูรู้สึกร่างกายจิตใจเป็นอย่างไรอยากให้พี่ยุ้ยใหม่ตอนนั้นที่พวกหนูเต้นกันก็มีร่างกายที่แข็งแรงขึ้นหนูก็จะบอกเขาว่าเราไปเต้นกันดีกว่าเราอยู่เฉยๆอาจจะทำให้เราสุดตัวอีก
Dancing is better than doing nothing. Dancing is better than dying. Those are the words that encompass all that I am here for and am speaking for. Through dance, Wisabong found in herself the will to live, and likewise, these hospital children can become empowered because dance has connections to one of the most intriguing concepts of all, lines. In the most traditional forms of dance, whether that be Indian classical or Lam Thai, movements have been marked by solid and concrete lines dividing a bad performance from a good one. But as you get closer in the timeline of dance, you see forms becoming freer and the blurring of these rigid rules. Dance originated from lines, but now we as dancers can choose to break away from them. And it is within this freedom to create, this freedom to carve out a world from the inside out that dancers, in a way, control their own lives and their own destinies. And who knows what can come of just helping these children cross their own lines and control their own lives. Take, for example, Zach So Big, a musician and YouTube phenomenon whose songs have touched the hearts of millions through YouTube. And did I mention he is a cancer patient? Or Adrienne Haslett Davis, the ballerina whose legs were blown off during the Boston bombings and who is now trying to dance again. These people did not stay within the confines of what being ill means. They strived to become more than just a person on a hospital bed. What if hospital children knew that they could become published authors, activists, or even politicians that could change the world? What if they knew that they could look at something like this and turn that into something like this? Through dance, the same force that gave me back my voice, these children will realize that they're not unfit, sick, or meaningless, but that instead they're filled with so much potential. And imagine the potential behind this overlooked demographic. How many great minds may be lurking within the masses? How many great minds who up until today have never realized how great they truly were? Wisabong, the athlete with the will to survive, has now gone back to her sport. She is supporting her family in Chiangdao as we are sitting here right now. She showed the will to survive and the will not to let herself and her ambitions die, and for that, I still respect and am inspired by her to this very day. She is the symbol for all those who have yet to be empowered. Dancers don't need lines, and she has broken hers. Now, what if we started erasing the lines, started giving hope to these children, hope that they could one day mean something to the world, regardless of their condition? This all started with dance, and a girl who refused to think like everyone else. But this is not only my story. This is the story of all those who are still waiting behind patient uniforms and of those who are striving to become more than their illnesses. This is the story of life and lines. Dancers don't need lines, and it's time for hospital children to break theirs. Thank you.